I first want to go a little bit out of order, and it's probably a little bit of a surprise to him, but our good friend Tom Gianni is the chief of the Maryland Highway Safety Office, and Prince George's County couldn't have a better partner in our efforts to reduce fatal motor vehicle crashes and fatal pedestrian accidents. So Tom, if I could put you on the spot and then have you a couple remarks and then introduce your boss, Mr. Quo. We just want to acknowledge you and thank you for all you've done for Prince George's County, and just hear from you for a second. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Chief Davis is right. He's put me on the spot. I don't have any remarks. I do want to say one thing, and I want to commend the activities of all the police departments here in Prince George's County. This is unfortunately always one of the counties that has a high number of traffic fatalities. And without the efforts of our law enforcement communities, including the county police, unfortunately I don't think we'll ever be able to address without their help. And I commend the department here, and Chief Magaw, especially yours, for all your efforts here. With that said, and without any further delay, it gives me great pleasure then to introduce my boss, the Governor's Highway Safety Representative, Mr. John Quo, who is the administrator of the Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration. Mr. Quo?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning on this warm, sunny morning. As administrator of the Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration, I also do serve as the Governor's Highway Safety Representative, and I'm absolutely honored to be here today with my fellow safety highway advocates, Chief Mark Magaw, Assistant Chief Kevin Davis of the Prince George's County Police Department, and Chief William McMahon, representing the Maryland Chiefs of Police. We are pleased to announce today that Maryland is formally recognizing the National Towards Zero Death Strategy. Unfortunately, August, even though it's middle part of summer and everyone's planning for vacations, August is traditionally one of the deadliest months for traffic fatalities in Maryland. And traffic safety is obviously a paramount concern in Maryland because more people die in traffic crashes than they actually do in violent crimes. Crashes cost the state billions of dollars each and every year. Towards Zero Death is a national initiative that will move Maryland towards a goal of zero traffic-related deaths. Despite almost 500 deaths from traffic crashes in Maryland in 2010, the lowest number of fatalities on record, it is way still too high. We must work towards a zero death goal. We must have a strong partnership and ongoing research to accomplish this goal. And we must change the way Marylanders think about highway safety. Drivers today are unfortunately taking driving for granted. Towards Zero Death sets a goal of cutting deaths in half over the next 20 years. And as you can see today, we are partnering with law enforcement. We have a very strong law enforcement presence here for today for good reason. We want to get the job done. We know by the data that we're facing numerous challenges. Let me share some of those staggering stats with you. 62% of Maryland's fatal crashes from 2006 to 2010 involve either excessive speed, an impaired driver, an unbelted occupant in the vehicle, or a combination of all three. In Maryland, 27% of highway fatalities involve speeding. Maryland traffic fatalities also cite impaired driver was involved in over 32% of all those fatal crashes. Seatbelts are used in approximately 95% of cars traveling in Maryland, which is good. However, 36% of the Maryland fatalities involve people who were not belted. Once again, these are all behaviors that we can change easily and control ourselves. 80 lives a year could be saved if we could just simply get everybody to use their seatbelts 100% of the time. 48% of Maryland's unbelted fatalities occurred from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. between 2007 and 2009. These motorists belong to a core for resist seatbelt messaging and enforcement. In addition, Maryland has not been spared from the proliferation of technology and distracted driving. Recently, researchers in Maryland noted that 10% of vehicles that pass by them at particular locations were being driven by people were using a handheld cell phone device. Ladies and gentlemen, that is against the law. Fatalities and injuries should not be just trains and ships. Why do we accept them in automobiles? Especially when we can easily do something about it ourselves by changing the way we drive and how we think about highway safety. We can no longer allow drivers to think, it's the other driver, it's not me. Today we recognize that public safety and public health are at stake. As champions of Towards Zero Deaths, Maryland can make a difference. Now I would like to read the governor's proclamation being held here by our very own Lisa LeMaster. And the governor's proclamation reads as follows. Whereas traffic safety is of paramount concern because more people die in traffic crashes than they do in violent crimes in Maryland, and whereas 500 people died in traffic crashes in Maryland in 2010, and whereas at least 30 states have supported the reduction of traffic fatalities in key organizations such as the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, the Governor's Highway Safety Association, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the National Association of State Emergency Medical Service Officials, and more have all developed highway safety strategies towards zero deaths. And whereas those who have adopted the Towards Zero Death philosophy have seen fatalities drop faster than the national average. And whereas the Towards Zero Death states are looking at all facets of the highway fatality problem, and whereas the Towards Zero Death initiatives are saving lives. Now therefore, I, Martin O'Malley, Governor of the state of Maryland, do hereby proclaim Maryland is now a Towards Zero Death state and do commend this observance to all of our citizens. Now, with Governor O'Malley's proclamation, we now join over 30 states and several key organizations. We're all looking at the highway fatality problem, and we will make a difference. With the Towards Zero Deaths initiative in the states that have already adopted it, fatalities are dropping faster than the national trend. We have to change the culture and make traffic safety a priority. Maryland can improve public safety and public health. We can decrease the economic impact to our communities and traffic fatalities, and accomplish zero deaths on our highways. We are now a Towards Zero Death state. So everybody, buckle up. Let's share the road safely together and show some courtesy to each other on our roadways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuo. And the mention of the partnership between Mr. Kuo's office, Chief Gianni's office, and the Prince George's County Police Department wouldn't be what it is today if not for our local partners in Prince George's County. Prince George's County is home to many police departments. Representing the town of Riverdale Park today is Chief Dave Morris. Dave, you can thank you for being here. And Chief Mike Winnick is the Chief of Police, University Park Police. Another great partner with the County Police, Maryland State Police, Lieutenant Butler is here representing the Maryland State Police. And we're standing in the middle of Police District 6. Captain Carol Lloyd is here on behalf of District 6 with some of her officers. Major Pete Iliadis is the commander of our Special Operations Division, and he's here with his group of traffic enforcement officers. So if I could now ask Chief Bill McMahon to come up and say a few words. Chief.
Thanks, Kevin. So thank you for having me, Chief Magaw. Thank you for hosting this event. It's such an important part of what we do. And before I get started, let me just thank the men and women in uniform that actually really go out and do the work every single day. You know, we get to come out, the chiefs and stuff get to come out to the press conferences and talk. But really, the real work gets done by the men and women who wear the uniform, officers, troopers, deputies throughout the state, trying to make their community safer through their commitment to traffic safety. 486 people were killed in Maryland last year. And if I told you that those deaths came as a result of an airplane crash, or if I told you those deaths came as a result of a disease that was preventable, there'd be outrage. There'd be a movement in this community to do something about that. But these people are dying kind of one at a time, isolated incidents. And there's really no outrage. But 486 Marylanders died last year on our roadways. And these deaths are, for the most part, preventable. And there are things that we can do about it, not just in law enforcement, but as a community. Things like driving while intoxicated, being distracted by texts and cell phones, speeding, as Mr. Quo pointed out, simply the act of wearing your seatbelt could have saved 80 of those lives. And for some reason, even though 486 deaths in a different type of setting might shock people, for some reason it seems to be acceptable when it's in motor vehicles. And we use language that minimizes it, like accidents, like somehow they're not preventable. Well, again, the reality is these are preventable. And as a police officer for over 28 years, I have seen firsthand the carnage, the devastated lives of those left behind when men and women in uniform have to knock on somebody's door and tell them their son or daughter won't be home, that their mother has died. Those things affect that family, but they also affect the community. And no death is acceptable. And for many of us in our jurisdictions, way more people die, as Mr. Quo pointed out, way more people die in traffic fatalities than they do other types of violent crime. But they just don't seem to get the press coverage, they just don't seem to get the outrage. And that's why me representing the Maryland chiefs of police throughout the state of Maryland, that's why we have signed on to support this Towards Zero Death initiative. Because our role in law enforcement, if our role is to keep our communities safe, which it is, we have to look at what threatens our communities. And one of the things that threatens our communities, again, is deaths and injuries through motor vehicle collisions. We have a lot to do. Again, speed, unrestrained drivers, texting, driving while under the influence. We have a tremendous amount of work to do. And even though the numbers have started to come down, again, one death is too many. And that's why, again, we're proud to sign on for this. The men and women in uniform that you see around here are going to be out throughout the state of Maryland looking for violations, looking for speeders, looking for seatbelt violations, and they're going to pull people over. And a lot of times, and these folks can tell you better than I can because they actually do the work, how many times do you stop somebody and they say, well, why are you wasting your time with this? Why don't you go out and catch some bad guys, right? Well, the reality is there's two answers to that question. Number one, they are bad guys because they're creating carnage on our roadways. And number two, we know from data that the people that are engaging in risky driving behaviors are also the ones that are violating other laws. So when these guys and gals stop drivers for a simple motor vehicle violation, they're uncovering drugs, they're uncovering wanted subjects, they're taking guns off our streets, they're making our communities safer. And for many years now, law enforcement is adopting a kind of a philosophy called DDAX, where we take crime data and we take traffic data and we map it together. And through strong enforcement, through strong motor vehicle enforcement, we have an impact not just on deaths on roadways, but we have an impact on crimes in our communities. And so that is another side benefit to this increased emphasis on traffic safety. Again, as the Chief of Police in Howard County and representing chiefs of police throughout the state of Maryland, as my role as president of the Maryland Chiefs of Police Association, we're very, very proud to stand here, not just with law enforcement, but with the highway safety officer, with MVA, with many of our other partners that can't be here today, to do something about these 486 deaths. Again, one death being one too many. So again, we're proud to sign on to this. We appreciate the support we get from all of our partners that are addressing this issue. It is part of what law enforcement does. Again, our job is to keep our communities safe, and this is one of the main ways that we can do it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. For the men and women in uniform, thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you, Chief McMahon. And as I asked Chief Magaw to come up for a few remarks, I want to acknowledge Captain DeWeese from the Maryland State Police over my left shoulder. I apologize. And Chief Magaw, just as a matter of fact, has taken the unprecedented move as the Chief of Police to establish a centralized full-time traffic enforcement squad in Prince George's County. That's never been done. So we're only here today because of his commitment and the state's commitment together to make our roadways safer. So, Chief.
Thanks, Kevin, and good morning. And I'd also like to welcome the chiefs that are here, Chief McMahon, Chief Winnick, Chief Morse, Mr. Quay and Mr. Gianni, thank you for being here and your support. And thank you for being here as we proclaim our dedication to Maryland's Towards Zero Death initiative. Prince George's County has received some attention here lately with our homicide rate that is down over 45%. And while we're very proud of those numbers, we're equally as proud as our 19%, being down 19% year to date in our fatal motor vehicle and pedestrian accidents. We're standing in the middle of one of our 10 Take 30 for traffic areas in Prince George's County. Areas selected for daily additional traffic enforcement because of the number of fatal and non-fatal crashes, combined with disproportionate occurrences of robberies, burglaries, and stolen vehicles. I'm particularly proud of this Take 30 for traffic area in our Beltsville community because of its 42% reduction in crashes. Patrol officers assigned to our District 6 station, each tasked with dedicating 30 minutes to traffic enforcement during each tour of duty to this crash-prone area, has increased their traffic stops by over 488%, proving the case that smart, targeted, and meaningful traffic enforcement where it matters most can and does make a difference. I'm very proud of the district commander here, Major Putnam, and his assistant commander, Captain Lloyd, and the men and women of District 6 for their actions and their enthusiastic dedication to this program. Our Take 30 for traffic commitment to safer roadways in Prince George's County supports Maryland's statewide Towards Zero Death initiative. The only number of deaths that I will accept has been and remains 0. And I stand shoulder to shoulder with chiefs of police across the state in our combined effort to ensure Maryland leads the nation in uncompromising efforts to eliminate motor vehicle and pedestrian deaths. Just this year, our police department has participated in Operation Roadrunner, targeting speeding motorcyclists, Checkpoint Strike Force, focusing on impaired drivers, Operation Smooth Operator, combating aggressive drivers, Click It or Ticket, addressing seatbelt usage, and several pedestrian safety education outings seeking to make pedestrians, bicyclists, and motor vehicle drivers more mindful of each other. This year in Prince George's County, 33% of our fatal motor vehicle crashes involve motorcycles. And while enforcement efforts like Operation Roadrunner are certainly a step in the right direction, more needs to be done to address this emerging trend, and we're committed to getting that done. I'm also joined here by our agency's traffic enforcement unit led by Sergeant Dana Ashton. This full-time traffic enforcement squad under the command of Major Pete Iliadis of the Special Operation Division recently won a prestigious Maryland Law Enforcement Challenge Award after competing against law enforcement agencies across the state. This is the first time Prince George's County Police Department has been awarded this top honor, but it won't be the last. I look forward to the future in Maryland where zero deaths on our roadways becomes a reality. Until then, the Prince George's County Police Department will work closely with our state and local partners to realize this achievable goal. Thank you.